This isn't just a story about a gun shop or a rude clerk. It's about what it means to be forgotten in the very country you gave everything for. It's about loyalty, respect, and the silent strength of those who never asked to be honored. When an old veteran walked in just to hold a piece of his past, he was mocked and dismissed. But what happened an hour later reminded everyone in that shop and across the world that real heroes don't walk alone. He wasn't looking for trouble, just wanted to look at an old rifle he used to carry long before most of them were even born. But when he asked, the young clerk laughed at him, mocked his limp, called him grandpa, and told him to leave. The old man didn't argue. As he always had, he simply turned around and walked out one quiet step at a time. What the clerk didn't know was that the name on that man's dog tags still meant something. Exactly 1 hour later, a Navy SEAL team pulled into the parking lot. No sirens, no drama, just a dozen men in formation, moving in silence, all asking the same question: where is he? Welcome to the Inec. Before we dive into this powerful story about disrespect, loyalty, and redemption, let us know in the comments, what city are you watching from? And if you believe that true warriors never forget their own, hit that subscribe button. These stories matter. The gun shop sat quietly on the edge of town, tucked between a bait store and a dusty hardware warehouse. Its tinted windows gave it an air of authority. Inside, rifles lined the walls like trophies, and the counters gleamed with handguns that looked almost too polished to fire. Behind the counter, two young clerks leaned on the register, half distracted by their phones, and the quiet hum of country music playing overhead. The store wasn't busy, it didn't need to be. It thrived on image. At precisely 10:43 a.m., the door chimed. The man who walked in didn't demand attention, but his presence made the air feel different, quieter. Worn boots, faded jeans patched at the knee, and a leather jacket that had seen decades. His face was lined with age but steady. Under the brim of a well-worn Navy SEAL team cap, his eyes were sharp. He limped, but not weakly. It was the kind of limp that came from decades of earning it. He went straight to the counter. One clerk looked up. "Need something, sir?" The man gave a single nod. "Yeah, wondering if you still carry that M1 Garand replica, the one with the original stock." The clerk blinked. "That's a collector's piece. Not really something you'd want to fire." "I didn't ask to fire it," the man replied calmly. "Just wanted to hold it. Haven't touched one in decades." The second clerk, slightly older, chuckled. "That thing's heavier than it looks. Pops, might be a bit much for your back. I carried one through jungle. I can manage it across a room." That's when their tone changed. The first clerk laughed too loud. "All right, Rambo, unless you're buying, you're just in the way. Let the real customers through." The second added, "Yeah, this ain't a museum." The old man paused. Maybe he wanted to say something. Maybe he thought about reminding them who he was, but instead, he simply nodded and said, "Understood." Then he turned, walked out the door, and disappeared, just another man in a country that had long forgotten what he'd done for it. Inside, the clerks chuckled and went back to their phones, never noticing the woman near the ammo rack watching everything unfold. Mid-30s, quiet, gym shirt, ball cap pulled low. 2 minutes later, she stepped outside and made a phone call. 3 words. He was there. At 11:43 a.m., the parking lot began to fill, but not with customers. A matte black SUV pulled in and stopped near the entrance. Its engine stayed on. A second followed, then a third. No noise, no movement, just quiet, waiting vehicles with dark windows and a purpose. Inside, the clerks were still unaware. Then the doors opened, 3 at once and 12. Men stepped out, deliberate, calm, focused. Some wore civilian clothes, others, military dress. They didn't need uniforms. You could see it in their posture, in their eyes. They walked into the shop without a word. The bell over the door chimed. The younger clerk didn't even look up from his phone. "Welcome in, gents. Looking for anything?" Then he glanced up and froze. 12 men, silent, staring directly at him. The oldest stepped forward. Silver hair, a square jaw, rows of ribbons, and the unmistakable SEAL trident on his chest. He spoke calmly. "An hour ago, one of us walked through this door." The second clerk, the one who had made the jokes earlier, started to speak. "Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding." The SEAL cut him off with just a glance. He didn't come here for attention. He didn't ask to be honored. He wanted to see a rifle he carried through Vietnam. "Your staff laughed, called him grandpa, told him to leave. You didn't ask his name. You didn't care." Then he placed something on the counter, a scorched flag patch, folded and worn. "He pulled this off my uniform when I was bleeding out in Helmand. Carried me out on foot. 22 hours. No radio, no backup. A hole in his side the size of a fist. He never told anyone. Never asked for credit. And when he came here today, you treated him like a burden." The younger clerk was speechless. A second SEAL stepped forward and laid down a photo. 8 men, dust-covered, sunburned, arms around each other, grinning despite the pain. In the middle stood the same man they'd thrown out an hour ago. "I didn't know," the clerk whispered. Exactly, the SEAL said. You didn't ask. They turned and walked out. Quiet, controlled. The kind of silence that lingers louder than any gunshot. Outside, a small crowd had begun to gather. No one recorded with their phones out of habit, only in reverence, just in case they forgot how it felt to witness something real. The SEALs got into their vehicles and drove away, but something had changed. Inside, the air never returned to normal. One clerk sat down, staring at the photo. For the first time, he understood. He hadn't just dismissed an old man. He'd turned away a living piece of history. By 1:45 p.m., the photo had gone viral across veteran groups on Facebook. The caption read, "When you disrespect a SEAL, you get all of them." People asked, who was the old man? The comments answered, James C. Beckett, a quiet, unassuming man who wore the same SEAL Team 3 cap every day. Few knew his story. Until now, Master Chief Special Warfare Operator James Charles Beckett joined in 1966, retired in 2004. Bronze Star, Silver Star, Purple, Heart, Vietnam, Panama, Iraq, Mogadishu. Over 35 personnel extractions in hostile zones. No memoirs, no interviews. Just decades of quiet service. By 3 p.m., local news ran the headline, "Silent Visit. 12 SEALs stand for local veteran." No sensationalism, just facts. And at the gun shop, the manager finally arrived. He said nothing to the clerks. He simply took the M1 Garand from the case and placed it beside the photo on the counter. Then he framed a note beside it. He carried, "At once, we carry the memory now." By nightfall, people had left flowers at the door. Challenge coins. Notes with one word, "respect." No protests. No outrage. Just quiet. Reverence. Beckett never responded publicly. He went on, as usual. Same morning walk. Same black coffee. Same booth at the diner. He never mentioned that day, not to the waitress, not to the old Marine who nodded at him, not to anyone, but people began to notice him now, and in time, everything changed. Weeks later, the SEALs returned not to the store, but to his diner. They didn't make a scene, just walked in, one by one, and stood silently by his booth. Beckett looked up, met their eyes. Then the youngest, who hadn't even been born when Beckett retired, asked, "Sir, if it's all right, we'd like to sit with you." Beckett nodded. They filled the booth, no one spoke. But everyone in the diner remembered that silence, because it meant everything. Some men don't ask for respect. They just live in a way that commands it. Chief James Beckett didn't need recognition. He already knew who he was. What mattered was that his team knew too. That they remembered. That when it counted, they showed up not with noise, but with presence. Now I'll ask you, have you ever known someone like Chief Beckett? Someone who never spoke about what they'd done, but whose actions spoke for generations? If so, write their name in the comments. Tell their story for the men who never would. And, if this moved you, subscribe to the Human Stories. Because men like Beckett shouldn't fade into silence. They've earned their peace. Now it's our turn to speak for them.